Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer, and this one is actually quite an interesting combination. So both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel before, albeit the home brewery has featured only once, whereas the away brewery has featured fairly regularly over the years because their beers were quite accessible in Sweden. But out of these two breweries, the home brewery I've only tried an IPA from. That was one that I found in Japan and it was really quite nice actually. Whereas the away brewery I would say are best known for their bigger, darker and more malty beers. But the one that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I do quite enjoy. It's got a bunch of adjuncts in it that I've never encountered before, and that was the main reason that this one caught my eye, in addition to the breweries that were involved with this. So needless to say, I'm really curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, for the home side of things, we are going to head to Sydney in New South Wales in Australia, and for the away side, we are going to go to Põhjala Pruulikoda, who are from Tallinn in Estonia. So the beer that they've come up with together is called Ranniku. It comes in at 12.5% ABV, and they're describing this one as an Untappd Nordic Stout. So yeah, an Imperial Stout with some really interesting adjuncts in it that we'll come to a little bit later on in the video. But yeah, this is one that I found in Wine Rack out in Sai Kung here in Hong Kong. So yeah, it just caught my eye because of the two breweries involved and the fact that Antipodean was a word that I learned a few weeks ago. I didn't know that word for referring to Australia and New Zealand, and then I read about the beer on the back, of course, and all the stuff that's in this one, and thought, you know what, we need to have a go at this and see what it's all about. But yeah, One Drop are one of the Aussie breweries that are, you know, becoming very well respected at the moment, and they're starting to get their beers out there a little bit more, whereas Põhjala were one of the first, if not the first, to get their beers across Europe from Estonia, and we know those guys do some really interesting things. So yeah, this is one that I'm very curious about. So let's crack on and see what this beer is all about. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from One Drop Brewing before, and also another link to my reviews that I've done from Põhjala Pruulikoda before, and we will no doubt see about adding more to both of those lists in the near future. And both breweries are actually fairly easy, readily available I should say, here in Hong Kong, so you will see them fairly soon. But there's all the usual social media down there below as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer based on the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, country, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries, and do check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well. You'll find this one in both the Estonian playlist and the Australian playlist, sorry, because it is dual nationality. But yeah, do check out those other ones as well, because there are some really interesting things in all the playlists these days. But yeah, let's go on and talk a little bit about the breweries then. I'll have a look at my brewery notes and we'll tell you about One Drop Brewing then, since they are the home brewery in this case. So One Drop Brewing are based in Botany in Sydney, which is very close to the main airport, and the company was founded back in mid-2016, but they opened their doors later on in 2019, and the four people behind this company are Clay Grant, Meg Barbich, Nick Calder-Scholes and Liam Quinn. So Clay has a background in food catering and shared the idea with Meg, his wife, that he wanted to start a brewery, and she was very supportive of this. And she'd worked with tech startups and liked the idea of them having their own startup company together. Nick originally though is from New Zealand, and he was the original head brewer at Garden Brewery in Zagreb in Croatia, and this was where he met Meg and Clay, who were on holiday visiting Meg's family. But Liam is Nick's best friend, And he was in the army, but also garnered a lot of experience in the hospitality sector. So between them, they've all got really relevant skills for starting their own brewery together. But Clay and Meg founded the company together officially in mid-2016 when they designed the brand and then started planning the company and got licenses and things like this. And they actually sold their house to fund the venture. But they also decided to go and visit Croatia, which was where they met Nick. And he decided he was going to join their venture in 2018. But the idea behind the name One Drop is that it's a single idea or action that can change the course of everything, and that's kind of what happened with this. You know, they found their head brewer by going on holiday to Croatia. So yeah, kind of an interesting coincidence there. But the brewery itself is located in an old paper mill, and they source their brewing equipment from a Canadian company called DME. This includes a 12 hectolitre brew kit and 6 24 hectolitre fermentation vessels. And they've also got a canning line from East Coast Canning, and I believe they've been kind of scaling up their operation over the last little while as well, since COVID kind of passed and things started to open up again. But as of March 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced about 360 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And yeah, these guys do a variety of different things. They do a lot of hazy IPAs, they do some sour beers as well, and a few other styles actually. But the ones that we tend to see here in Hong Kong are usually the IPAs and the sours. They're supposed to be very, very good for the sour beers actually, and I do have one of those in the fridge. I'm just not sure what order those videos are going to publish in. Maybe this one will come first, maybe that one will come first, we'll see. But yeah, you'll see a sour review from One Drop Brewing on the channel very, very soon. But yeah, that is everything I can tell you about One Drop Brewing for the moment. If you guys want to learn more about this brewery, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and chat a little bit about Põhjala Pruulikoda. So Põhjala, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Tallinn in Estonia, and the company was founded by Peter Keek, Imperial, Green Nurmits, and they were later joined by Tiit Pananen as well. So the group of four went on a fact-finding trip to Brewdog in Scotland after Punk IPA reached Estonia, because they were all beer enthusiasts and they wanted to see about making their own beer over there. And it was there that two of the founders who were interning at Brewdog encountered Chris Pilkington, and he joined them as their head brewer, and he's now also a partner in the company as well. But Chris had actually graduated in marketing but was an avid home brewer and was producing some really interesting beers on the Brewdog pilot kit, and it was this that inspired the Estonian guys to invite him to join them to found Põhjala. But the company was officially founded in 2012, and then from 2013 they began to gypsy brew at a few breweries around Tallinn, and then they opened their own brewery, their first brewery, in May 2014 in the Nõmme district in the south of the city, which had an initial capacity of 12 hectolitres, but this was scaled up considerably over the years. Their export started in 2015, and because of this brewery are widely known across Europe and further afield. In fact, in the Baltic countries, because they have very little population, you know, Estonia is 1.3 million, Latvia is about 2 million, and I think it's like 3.2 million in Lithuania, if I'm not mistaken. Because of the very small populations, a number of breweries export their beer across the European Union to the bigger countries, which will buy most of it. I think it's like 2/3 or 60% or something like that that they will export. That's just a kind of common business model up there. But yeah, you'll find good beer from the Baltic countries across Europe for pretty reasonable prices. But at this first brewery, they had 24 taps, but then later in 2018 they moved to a new brewery in the Noblessner shipyard in northern Tallinn, which was a former they used to work on all sorts of things there. You should go and see it. But this brewery has a 50 hectolitre brew house with an even bigger tap room and a restaurant that serves American barbecue. But there, they're also looking, I believe they opened up a bakery fairly recently as well, because the head chef, his wife was a pastry chef, and they wanted to use her skills as well. But as of March 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 150 different beers according to Untappd. And I would say across Europe, these guys are probably best known for their big malty, like Imperial Stouts and Imperial Porters and stuff like this. They do IPAs and they do lagers and things like that as well, but I don't think those tend to make it out of Estonia as much as the kind of bigger things do. You know, I think that's fair to say for a number of the Estonian breweries. Actually, they tend to keep their lighter stuff at home and send the bigger stuff abroad, and because of that, these breweries have a reputation across Europe for being big malty type breweries actually. But yeah, that's everything I can really tell you about Pohjala for the moment. The only other thing I would add is that Pohjala in Estonian, it means Northern Realm. That was the inspiration behind the name. But if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things like that to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. And you can also check out my Meet the Brewery video that I made, because I met N and Chris Pilkington to do an interview a couple of years back, and both really nice guys, so do check out that video as well. But yeah, that's everything we need to say in the history section of this video, so we can go on to the beer itself. So this one, if I'm not mistaken, is this a 440 milliliter? Yeah, 440 milliliters. So the Australians quite often use the 440 as well. They're not really using the American pint, the 473. I'm not sure. The Aussies had, like, you know, schooners and pints and all these kind of things when I was there. I don't know what the milliliter measurements of these are. But yeah, plain gold top on the can there. This one looks very, very nice. But yeah, Ranniku, the name. As far as I could figure, this is named after a little village close to Pärnu in the southwest of Estonia, which is supposed to be very beautiful. I actually wondered if it was an Aboriginal word or something like that. And the main reason, you'll see in a second why I thought that, is because of the stuff that's in this beer. So it says Ranniku Antipodean Nordic Stout. Ranniku, the coast, influences of the Australian coast collide with tenebrous affinity from the Pohjala Northern Realm. Born is a massive dark collaboration of beer and friendship with our pals Pohjala, Estonia. Working closely with head brewer Martin, we adapted a huge dark base of theirs for the Antipodean malts we use, while also drawing inspiration from coastal Australia. After an 8-hour boil, heavy panel additions, robust hopping and cold fermentation, and extensive bittering on the hot side gives this massive Nordic stout something massive. A rich foundation of strong malty and heavily roasted character is complemented and amplified by additions of North Queensland vanilla and coconut, New South Wales cinnamon myrtle, and Tasmanian oak. Once again, as the solstice passes, a rich, meticulous stout emerges. So I guess this one must have been a Christmas release, but obviously I'm reviewing it for you a wee bit later. So yeah, this is going to be my Sunday evening beer. So yeah, I just really wanted to try this one because I was curious about all the stuff that was in it. But yeah, I think that gives you a fair explanation of everything that's in there. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. A 12.5% Imperial Stout with Queensland vanilla and coconut, New South Wales cinnamon myrtle and Tasmanian oak. Should be interesting. So let's get it out. There we go. To the glass and see how we go. So I'm curious to see, when I had a little look at this one on Untappd earlier, it said Stout Other. It didn't actually say whether it was a pastry stout, a Russian Imperial Stout, or exactly what it was. So I'm curious to see what we're going to get with this one. But knowing how Pohjala are with Imperial Stouts, I think it should be pretty damn good, because in one drop, you know, the beers I've had from them have been nice. I've tasted one or two on tap here in Hong Kong, and they've been pretty damn good as well. So nice to have a bit more access to different Aussie stuff. And if you want to see more Aussie reviews, do check out my friend Sam Smalley, who's just starting up his YouTube channel. I'll try to remember to put the link to it in the video description below, but he's been a big participant on my channel over the years. But anyway, back to the beer. So you can see with this one that it poured with about a finger of a frothy, I would say, medium tan head there. Some smaller bubbles on the surface of the liquid, a few bigger ones as you go further up. But as we shine the light through this one, it's got a lovely dark ebony colour to it. And I mean, you'd expect this. The colour of your beer is dependent on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But when it comes to imperial stouts and black beers like this, it's quite difficult to affect the colour of them too much with adjuncts. I've only seen it done once or twice, and that was with beets. I think that was either Pohjala actually, or it was maybe Puasta from Tartu that did that. I think it might have been Puasta, come to think of it. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass on this one. Not too much else visible in the way of carbonation, and you can see the head on this one is just fading away a little bit. And yeah, that's one of the things with big imperial stouts. Unless they've got a bit of wheat in them, which this may well do, they struggle to maintain their head a little bit, especially the higher up on the alcohol scale that you go. But yeah, not a lot of light coming through this one. You can see a little bit of a kind of Coca-Cola coloured edge to it if you shine the light through. But yeah, it does look pretty nice, and pretty much what you would expect from an imperial stout as well. So nothing else we really need to say about the appearance of this one. I think we can have a little look at the aroma and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Oh, that's very, very sweet. That's very sweet, actually. That's not what I was expecting at all. Yeah, just notice the camera angle is not the best. There we go. Yeah, that's very, very sweet. Now, this is one of the things. This was actually listed as being, I think it got 3.4 on Untappd, actually. It wasn't very highly rated. And the aroma, I have to admit, the aroma on this one is very, very strange, actually. It's quite... I've told you on the channel before, I'm not the biggest fan of like modern pastry stouts and things like that. And just from the aroma of this one, this reminds me of one of these kind of marzipan-y pastry stouts from Brazil that I had one time that I just did not like that much. So I'm hoping this one doesn't carry on in the same line as that one. We'll need to see. But yeah, let's take a wee look at the aroma and just see how we go. Yeah, oh, this, I think it's the cinnamon that must be out of the things that are in this. Yeah, it's very, I think it's the cinnamon, the combination of the cinnamon and the coconut that's coming out here. The vanilla's there and quite sweet and quite heavy. But yeah, the cinnamon, you can smell the cinnamon in the background. It's actually got a little bit of that toasty brown sugary character to it as well. And I think that kind of overpowers a lot of everything else that's going on in the beer. I've got a feeling that this is going to be one of the ones where the aroma's kind of overpowered a little bit, and you actually get a lot more complexity out of the flavour. So we might not spend too much time on the aroma. But if I sugar this thing up, you get a little bit more of a kind of cakey note out of it. Yeah, there's a few things going on in this one. The backbone of the beer, you have a little bit of that kind of fresh, kind of chocolate sponge type thing. Like I said, it has a little bit of this marzipan note to it, and that kind of mixes in with the coconut, the vanilla, and things. Yeah, it does come across very much like a pastry stout from the aroma side of things. Yeah, it's really kind of unusual, as I say, not so much my thing. But yeah, lots of vanilla. The cinnamon's definitely in there as well. There are little hints of like nuttiness and things too, but yeah, there are definitely little hints of nuttiness and things in this one too, which are quite interesting, rather than just all the coconut. You do get a little bit of chocolate on this one, 80%, maybe 80, yeah, 70-80% cocoa chocolate. It's got a wee bit of that darkness to it. Certainly some like oily treacle molasses type things coming out of the beer as well. Yeah, some oily treacle molasses. And other than that, I don't know if there's too much to say on the malty side of things. I do get a little bit of what I suspect is the Tasmanian oak. When you add oak chips into a beer, it's going to give you a wee bit of dryness in the background. But yeah, you don't get too much of it. You can smell a little bit of that dry woodiness in there. Yeah, this is interesting from the aroma perspective for sure. Really curious about this. On the hoppy side of things, I mean, obviously you could, with an Imperial Stout, you could age this beer quite a lot and probably still get similar flavours out of it. And the adjuncts would maybe kind of drop back a little bit. The hoppy character in this one is still quite prominent because you've got a bit of earthiness, you've got a little bit of kind of herbal character in there as well, some nice floral notes, and you've also got a good little bit of earthiness in there as well. So a little bit of grassiness, sorry, not earthiness. We said earthiness earlier, but yeah, definitely some grassiness in this one. As I said, the aroma that I get out of this one is not my favourite, so I'm not spending too much time smelling this. But yeah, it's got quite a sharp sort of, on the fruity side of things, quite a sharp like blueberry, blackberry kind of thing. Maybe some figs. It's got like that artificial raspberry sort of thing going on with it as well. Yeah, the way that goes together is quite interesting. Yeah, figs, maybe a bit of raisin, sort of blueberry, blackberry, artificial kind of red fruits. Yeah, aroma wise, this is definitely not my favourite Imperial Stout that I've come across over the last wee while. But yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to take in the aroma before you try the beer. But we're going to have a taste of this one now, and then I'm going to finish the video and share it with my friend and see what they think. So yeah, let's do this. This is the Ranniku from Drop Brewing in Botany in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, in collaboration with Põhjala Pruulikoda from Noblessner in Tallinn in Estonia. 12% Imperial Stout with Tasmanian vanilla, New South Wales cinnamon myrtle, and Queensland vanilla and coconut. So yeah, let's get stuck in and see what it is. Slàinte, skål, cheers. And tervisex, as they say in Estonian. Oh yeah, right. That's really interesting. It's very unusual, and it's quite hard to place my finger on this. Like, it has this really roasty, toasty, black. Yeah, it has this really roasty, toasty, black, kind of charred character in the middle of the palate there. It's definitely, it comes across like some, it comes across as some kind of combination of like an RIS, like it has an RIS sort of backbone to it, but then it's got a lot of that pastry stout sweetness on top of it. Yeah, and it's got quite a lot of hoppy bitterness to it as well. I do wonder if this is a beer. I'm going to be straight up and say, I don't like this one. This is not, you know, this just isn't up there with the standards I'd expect of either brewery. I'm still going to go through it and actually try and examine it as I always would. But yeah, you know, there's just something about this one. It's just really kind of lacking almost, and you know, it's not going to put me off trying beers from either of these breweries again. Not a chance. because I know what these guys can do, but it just doesn't work. It just really doesn't work, this one. So I think the thing that's maybe ruined this beer is the cinnamon. I think if you'd left it, I think if you took the cinnamon, potentially the coconut as well out of this beer, I think you'd have something that would be really nice and workable, actually. So yeah, I think that's the main thing with this. I think the cinnamon, that's what I'm thinking is really lingering this one, is just the cinnamon. The cinnamon almost gives you this kind of burnt, toasty type quality. So yeah, if you took the cinnamon out of this, I think you'd probably have a pretty solid beer, actually. It's just almost like you take the Christmas cakey thing a bit too far with it. I think that's there with us. But if they change the base, in this one, or maybe not the base is probably fine. If they change the adjuncts in this, I think it'd probably be pretty damn good, actually. But yeah, as it stands, it just doesn't work. I think we have to just say that. But let's try and break it down and describe for you what's going on. Maybe it will get a bit better as it kind of warms up a bit more and airs out and stuff. But yeah, this one for me just doesn't work. When you take it in, it's actually all right. It's just the aftertaste isn't very nice. And that's really when it starts to show more and more of the adjuncty side. And it's that, as I say, that makes me think it's the cinnamon that's just overpowering in this one. And I can see why they would maybe overpower this. They'd put the cinnamon up in this a little bit, because it's a Christmas stout. And that's kind of what you want. Maybe if you paired this with some fruit and balanced out your palate a wee bit more, it would work. I'm trying this one with like a naked palate or a clean palate. Yeah, for me it just doesn't work. But let's try and break it down then and describe it for you a bit more in depth. So yeah, when you take the beer in, it's actually quite sweet and quite sort of silky and like a kind of marzipan-y cake. But then yeah, into the aftertaste, it just goes like really roasty and black, and it just comes across as overly bitter. And it's just, you can feel the hoppiness in this one just kind of pushing it out. Like, I think it's maybe Galena that's been used in this, because it feels American. Although maybe they've used one of the Aussie hops, right enough. Not sure which Aussie hop you would use for stouts, right enough. But yeah, it's bitter on the green component, it's bitter in the centre of your palate, yeah. But yeah, let's break it down as we always do. So, the backbone of that middle third of your palate, you have this like roasty, toasty, well-fired, like charred black bread crust character there. As you go further forward into the middle third of your palate, you can feel the Tasmanian oak in this one. And one of the main differences between using oak chips, which I suspect is the case here, rather than an oak barrel, is that you get a lot of dryness out of the wood. You don't get the same kind of like smoothness as you would from a barrel, and you can taste that. That's another feature that comes out into the aftertaste with this one. The woodiness is actually quite nice. And as I say, I would keep, if I was redrawing the recipe for this beer, I would keep the Tasmanian oak. On top of that charred bread crusty character, you start to get a little bit of the kind of, you get like a dense kind of slightly oily, rye bready character coming out of this one. And that is really, really nice. So you get that dense you get a dense little bit of rye bready character, then you've got a kind of sponge cake out of this one. So yeah, you have this kind of sponge cakey character, and you can feel it's absolutely like poaching, it's laced with cinnamon, but it's just too strong. And it's almost like it's burned, like it actually, the cinnamon that's in this just gives you that, it's kind of like, you know, I'm not sure exactly what cinnamon myrtle is, but, you know, in Sweden we have kanelbullar, we have cinnamon buns, and the cinnamon that's in this is just, no, it's just not, it's not sweet cinnamon, it's like charred, just roasted cinnamon, and it's just like, nah, it just doesn't work. And that, I think it's the cinnamon that destroys this beer. I really think it is. I think the cinnamon just doesn't work. And I think even if you're a fan of cinnamon, as I, you know, cinnamon's grown on me over the years of being in Sweden, and ginger and stuff like that has as well. But this just doesn't work. It really does not. So yeah, you have this cakey layer in there, that sponge cakey layer that's just laced with cinnamon, like roasty, toasty, dry cinnamon. There's coconut in there as well. And like some of the vanilla comes out further forward on the palate in that flavour as well. Above that, you have like you have a sort of you have like a chocolatey layer in this one, and there is a layer of like charred chocolate. One of the things with Imperial Stouts, the way you can thicken up mouthfeel and stuff like that in these, you can either do double mash, I suspect this is double mash, and you can also do longer wort boils. It's got 8 hours on the wort boil, which isn't the longest I've come across. You know, Nerd Brewing in Sweden, I think they leave it overnight to do that. But yeah, the wort boil in this one, you get that dry kind of leathery chocolate kind of out of this one. And further back on the palate, you have this. Further back on the palate, you have a little bit of a kind of you get more of like a charred chocolatey note, and as you move further forward, that charriness kind of stays there for a little bit, but you start to get more of like an 80-90% cocoa chocolate as you reach the front of that middle third of your palate. Above that, you do get a little bit of like a kind of treacle molasses type thing, some leathery brown sugars, but yeah, the charred chocolate, the wood, the, you know, overdone cinnamon really really comes out in this one, and it just, you know, the aftertaste is where this beer really falls down. I do wonder if that length of wort boil has, I don't know when they would add the adjuncts in this, probably in the wort boil, but yeah, I wonder if the long wort boil has done something to the cinnamon and just made it like so dry and bitter and things like that. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear from, to know, like, I'd be curious to hear from some of my friends what they would think about this beer, which is what I'm going to do after this. But I think at that point we've said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate, and that's where the majority of the complexity in this beer is. So yeah, let's go to the back third of the palate then. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of the kind of rye bread in the base and the sort of sponge cake above that. As I often say, the back third of your palate is going to give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. But yeah, the back third of your palate, you can feel the roasty toasty, well fired. You can feel like the roasty toasty, well fired bread crust in there. Then you've got the rye bready layer, which is just a little bit lighter and more airy. And then above that, you have the more airy kind of sort of sponge cakey type thing. The cinnamon is actually a bit sweeter on the back third of the palate, which is quite interesting, and you can feel a wee bit of the cherry chocolate just kind of going over the top of that, and then you've got the yeasty character sitting above everything else. Yeah, it's just not enjoyable, this, really not. So actually really disappointed with that, really disappointed. Can't remember how much I paid for it actually, but maybe think I maybe paid like $140 or something, so like £14, 15, 16 euros, something like that. Don't know what that would be in Aussie dollars, but yeah, I'm actually really disappointed with this one. But like I say, it's not going to put me off trying other stuff from the brewery, either of the breweries. But yeah, it's just a disappointment. But above all of that, you get some of the yeasty character out of the beer, but it's not too prominent just because of how overpowering the adjuncts in this one are. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer sits above on the back third of the palate. Just really is not that detectable. There's maybe a little bit of a kind of like gingerbready kind of character there, but that's it, to be honest. And definitely you can feel the back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together. On the hoppy side of things then, let's have a wee look at that. The hoppy character is still quite, it's still quite prevalent in this beer. Yeah, so the hoppy side of things, I wonder if that's another thing, maybe taking down the hoppiness, the IBU and stuff of this beer with the hoppiness could be another thing. But I would say I do wonder if it's Galena that's in here. I'd be very curious to know what hop they've used. But yeah, in the back corners of your palate, you get a little bit of earthiness. As you come further forward, it does have a bit of that kind of piney resinous character to it, which lingers there, maybe a bit of floral spiciness at the front corners of the tongue. But then yeah, round the front curve of your palate, it's a little bit lighter and a wee bit more kind of grassy and stuff like that. So yeah, the way that it goes together is really interesting in that sense, because it's quite bitter. It's almost got like black IPA level bitterness to it, this one. So yeah, but let's look at the front third of your palate then. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you've got a bit of that kind of rye bready character in the base, and then the sponge cakey sort of thing. And then the base of that front third of your palate, you've got the roasty toasty black malts again, the kind of rye bread, the sponge cake, and then you've got a little bit of that oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, the fruity side of the beer isn't really enjoyable either. It's just like this really artificial blackcurranty, figgy, blueberry type thing. Yeah, and again you just get that roasty toasty charred black thing out of this that's that just overpowers the whole beer. It's like it literally, this thing is like charred black bread crust with a whole load of cinnamon, like, you know, just burnt cinnamon on top of it, and it's just and like burnt wood. It's just not good. It really is not good. Last thing, just to finish off this review, it's difficult to do this. It's the mouthfeel. That's one of the things that's about this. It does. I noticed it actually does say on the can "serve cold," which I did. I only let it warm. I basically drank it straight out of the fridge because it said that. It doesn't help the beer at all though. It's the mouthfeel is actually kind of fairly light for an Imperial Stout. I don't know if it could be barrel aged and maybe they've sacrificed a bit of the mouthfeel and things like that. But yeah, top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation is quite smooth. It does have a fairly silky and slightly wet, oily type mouthfeel to it. IBU wise, I think it's probably quite high because of the roasty bitterness and the kind of lingering hoppy character. The malt base, like I said, dry and roasty underneath, bit smooth in the middle, overpowering like toastiness in the middle, then a lot of sweet. There's a good little bit. There is a little bit of sweetness on top, but it's that kind of marzipan-y flavour essency, false sweetness that you get in a lot of pastry stouts, and then the fruity side of the beer is just, yeah, like fake blackcurrants, blackberries, something like that. Yeah, it's just not good. It's just not good. I really don't like this one. And I think we can leave it at that for this. Like I said, not going to put me off trying beers from either brewery, but I don't know what they were thinking with this. The cinnamon is overpowering. Yeah, the cinnamon was overpowering. If you took the cinnamon out of this, I think you could have a decent beer. Maybe take the coconut out as well. The coconut does linger into the aftertaste too, and it seems quite powerful. Actually, that's something I've not really thought about during the video right enough. But yeah, this is one of these. It's like it just reminds me of this pastry stout that I had from Brazil. That was it has this like marzipan-y type vibe to it, and I just don't like that in pastry stouts. One of the pastry stouts are very much a hit or miss for me. This is absolutely a pastry stout, but yeah, it's just not good. Just not good, this beer. Don't buy this one. Very rare that I'll say that, but yeah, I'm gonna let my friend taste this, but I'm pretty sure this one will be drain pour. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that. I had really high hopes for this one. I was quite excited to try this, so I'm quite disappointed. But yeah, this was the Ranniku, a 12.5% Imperial Stout with Tasmanian Oak, New South Wales Cinnamon Myrtle, which I think ruined the beer, and North Queensland Vanilla and Coconut. So yeah, collaboration with Pohjala in Tallinn, Estonia, brewed at Drop Brewing in Botany, near Sydney, in Sydney, in New South Wales. Yeah, really disappointed with this beer. Going to be drain pour, but yeah, that's not going to put me off the breweries at all. So let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from both of these breweries, and we will return to these guys again at some point. And I'm sure, absolutely 100% certain, that the next beer will be better than this, and it will be to the usual standards that I would expect of both of these breweries. So until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out Drop and Pohjala's social medias, and I'll see you guys later. Ciao just now.